Fê, nós estamos ao vivo, pode começar, tá?
Ok. Então, pessoal, prazer estar aqui, falar com vocês. I guess we should switch to English now, right? So it's a pleasure to take part of this SBS Mais Educação event one more time. For those who don't know me, nice to meet you. I'm Fernando Morais, and I'm speaking on behalf of Pearson, Brazil. So it'll be a pleasure to talk to you today about a topic that is quite interesting, at least to me, to talk about future skills. Is always something I like to do. And why teaching future skills matter. But first and foremost, guys, even though I cannot see you as much as I would love to see you face to face on an event like this, this isn't possible right now. But on the other hand, the good thing is we can have people from many different parts of the country and the continent, perhaps the world. So it's great to have you all here. And I would like to start with an activity which is for you to do individually. I wanted to do this. If there are more people around you and if you cannot talk, then don't talk, especially if people will think you're crazy. But if you can talk and if you can read something out loud, I'd like to ask you to read the first part of the topic of this lecture or workshop. I want you to read the first part of the topic for this workshop, right? Are we teaching for testing or for mastery? Okay, read it in your mind. And when I was reflecting on the theme of humanizing the use of technology in the classroom, this came to my mind. And if you are reading, and I'm gonna give you a few seconds for you to read. I just want to give you a spoiler for this activity. There are two possible intonations for this question. And I would like you to try and find the two intonations in your mind. What are they? So let me give you 20 seconds so you can read it and find out what are the two possible intonations for this question. Okay, very good. And now I want you to use the chat, right? Can you go to the YouTube chat? And I'm keeping my eye on the chat. And I want you to tell me what each of these intonations imply. Okay, there is a stress on the we. Liliana is saying here. But the question is, this can be read in this way. I'm going to tell you, and you tell me what you understand if I read it this way, okay? Are we teaching for testing or for mastery? Why future skill matter? So if I read it like this, are we teaching for testing or for mastery? Why future skills matter? Which of the two words, testing or mastery, you think is most important in this way I read? Are we teaching for testing or for mastery? Why future skills matter? Okay, there is a stress on the or. Somebody's saying there in the chat. Okay, my dear friend from Fashion English in Batatais is saying hello. Okay, mastery. Okay, David mentioned here that if I read it this way, are we teaching for testing or for mastery? Then the most important thing is mastery. But so I know this can be read in this way, but this is not how I read it. This is not why I wrote it. Actually, I wrote it because I wanted to read it in this way. Are we teaching for testing or for mastery? Why future skills matter. So what happens if I read it this way? Are we teaching for testing or for mastery? Which of the two is more important, if there is any? What do you think? I'm getting a hello from Olinda, Pernambuco. Good to see you guys. I can see. So if I read it this way, guys, I don't know if I'm going crazy here in my mind, but I guess if we read it this way, which is the way I intend to lead this talk with you, okay? Are we teaching for testing or for mastery? I'm including both at the same level, right? Both. Yeah, Claudia mentioned here that both are in the same level. If I say, are we teaching for testing or for mastery? Are we doing any of these two things? So my point is that perhaps a large part of what we do as educator is either focusing on testing or mastery. Yeah. And in my argument, neither of them is exactly what we should be doing right now. I know that especially in regular schools, tests are really important, and college entrance exams are important. NM, for example, super important, even essential for young people. But then to say that all of our teaching should be focusing on testing would probably be too much, right? Mastery of content is also important. But to say, especially as language teachers, that we should aim for mastery of our students so they could master the topics we teach would probably be too much as well, right? Thinking that they should learn all the grammar topics before we can go on. So the point of this presentation is that perhaps neither of the two aspects is the solution for the teaching crisis we're in right now, and that teaching future skills is what matters, and it's the way to go in the future. So to start, I would like to show you our agenda for the day. We'll start and have a quick look at English teaching methods. If you have seen my presentations before, you will see that I like to contextualize things. So I want to look at where we are right now, but also where we come from. And then we'll see where we're going, where we're headed, the current trends in English language teaching. We'll have a look at some jobs and skills for the future, and then we will focus on, we'll be at the most important part of this presentation, which is future skills. And teaching future skills or teaching with future skills, including mediation, which is probably the topic in which we'll spend most of our presentation. Is that okay? Can we start our journey? I hope that's a pleasant journey for all of you. So just to contextualize a brief history of methods for language teaching and how these things have evolved throughout time. This is a timeline of English language teaching in the 20th century, starting in the 1900s and going up until the 2000s. And this timeline of English language teaching methods can perhaps be divided in some periods that I did it here out of my mind just to illustrate a point for you. I'm calling English 1.0, or the first part of this timeline, a period in which the teaching of English and languages was pretty much done by using grammar and translation methods, or the direct method, in a very behaviorist or structuralist perspective, right? So that was up until the 1940s. I know there is still a little bit of grammar translation going on in some methods in language schools or in classrooms. But then I have a second phase here in this timeline, which ranges from 1940s. There's a little bit of an overlap here up until the middle of the 1980s, which was what I called English 2.0, and is a cognitivist or humanistic approach for language teaching. So there is more emphasis on students understanding things, perhaps on mastering stuff. There is a little bit more of interaction between students and teachers, but still a lot of repetition, grammar rules being internalized. And then finally, in the third stage of the third part of, towards the end of the 20th century, teaching became communicative and interactionist, right? The focus was on interaction, on communication, and this is what I call English 3.0, right? Is this the time we're living in? What do you think, guys? Is this really, I think to a great extent, right? It's a lot of what we do nowadays, right? A lot of our teaching is communicative, is interactive. If you teach from an interactionist or communicative approach, please tell me in the chat if you do that, and if you think that's important. Let's interact here. Some schools are still kind of on English 2.0. Carol is saying here, Karina Tonietti. Yeah, and that's true. Lots of schools are still there, right? Some schools are still in English 1.0, though, right? But I want to call your attention to a term here, two words: principled eclecticism. So what is principled eclecticism? Eclectic is something that is not restrained to one and only idea or perspective. It's something broader that is not attached or stuck to a certain point of view, but that comprises lots of different perspectives. And this is the time we live in right now, right? Now that we are at the principled eclecticism, the post-method era, uses whatever is good from each of the periods. I think this is what we've been doing right now. Carolina says that communicative approach is amazing. Students feel they belong there. Yes, I agree with you. But then just one more observation I would like to make before I make my point is how education has been evolving throughout the time. And perhaps education 1.0 was what we had in languages for grammar translation. It was only the teacher speaking and students translating or doing things. Then 2.0 is the time in which there was interaction already, but it was still in the sense of students were regurgitating or responding to what teachers said only, but still not thinking very much. There was audiolingual. Students would repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat, and there were drills and more drills and more drills, but not much space for thinking. In English 3.0, in education 3.0, then the teacher started to be a facilitator in the classroom, right? When there was more collaboration. I think this is the time you guys are mentioning in the chat, when there was interaction. It was good for students because they could interact with each other and even use social networks, perhaps use the web, or be collaborative, do projects, project-based learning. But then, guys, the point is, I don't know if you agree with me. By the way, how many of you teach at a language school, and how many work at a regular school? Just for me to have an idea here, I would like to know if you work at a public school or a language school, if you can mention that in the chat. Because when I started teaching, and when I was young, I'm not young anymore, I guess. When I was younger, right? Okay, I'm still young. When I was younger, I used to hear a lot that if you really, language schools, regular school there as well, Ana Paula. So that if you wanted to learn English, you should go to a language school, because the regular school wouldn't teach you English. The regular school would teach you grammar and vocabulary. Teacher would speak Portuguese most of the time. Private bilingual, Marcella, very nice. So there's bilingualism now. So I'm from a time in which regular schools would teach English for grammar and vocabulary. And if you wanted to learn a language, you should go to a language school. But what happens in education 4.0 right now, what happens in teaching is that everything is connected. Teachers, sometimes learners can be teachers as well. There is content and production and sharing of information. Students have open access to information, and the teaching of English has changed a lot, guys. And my point here is that education, or regular schools, as we say, have evolved a lot, especially in the last decade. If you think about how English was taught in 2010 in regular schools and how it is taught right now, we have gone from teachers using Portuguese to teach English, which was the reality in the past, to teachers using English to teach stuff, to teach science, to teach STEAM or STEM, and history or math and literature. So we have evolved from not having English in the classroom to English invading other subjects as well, classroom. So it's quite a paradigm shift, isn't it, in regular education? And the point, and some people from bilingual schools here will say, we'll see that more often. So my point is, education has evolved a lot. How about English language teaching? I'm going to ask you a question because I heard something at the Brass Tissot from Deborah Schisler, a dear presenter. She's so amazing. And in one of her plenaries, she says that perhaps English language teaching is afraid of taking a step forward, is afraid of evolving. And her point was, and she was talking to a college professor, renowned, very famous here in Brazil. And her point was that in English language teaching, we are still doing the things in the same way as we used to do, perhaps in the beginning, in the end of the 20th century. And of course, there are no cassette tapes anymore. Perhaps they were only replaced by other technologies, but we still do apparently the same things. The qualifications teachers have, the certifications, the exams are still the same, right? What we want from students is basically the same, perhaps. And it seems like regular education is passing us, is leaving us behind now with the advances that they have done. And I don't have an answer for that. I just wanted to bring the topic to discussion here with you guys to see. I don't know how many of you agree with this question. Can you tell me? Do you agree or no? Do you still see English language teaching ahead of education? No, what we do in language schools is still a lot better than what is done in regular schools. It's still more communicative, but I don't know. There are mixed arguments in each case. But please tell me, what do you think? Do you see English language teaching evolving recently, the way it's done by I don't know, private tutors or language schools? Is it evolving, or is it still stuck to the same paradigms, still doing the same things in the same way, the same topics, the same authors? We're still talking about the same things, perhaps things that didn't make sense to me 10 years ago are still being talked, and people keep talking about them. And I don't know. That's perhaps it's me. I'm getting too old for that. But I want to start with a first other point here that I would like to make. Some people are saying that they're still the same. Some people mention that it has definitely evolved, right? We are evolving. Very nice. I can see there is an advance. Great. If you can please mention how it has developed recently? How has it advanced? But I would like to hear more from you guys. So we're the code 3942. So I'm gonna type here so you can have it. You can have it easy. Menti.com. Use code 3942 8676. Oops, it's 42. And guys, I want you to tell me, what do you see from your perspective? What are current trends in English language teaching? What do you see happening? What is trendy? What is picking up right now? What are the hot topics, or what is happening in the English language teaching world nowadays from your perspective? You have to use one word per time. I think you can enter 3 answers at least, but they have to be one at a time. Okay. So would you please enter the code and your opinions there. Okay, some people are using the chat here, which is fine. If you don't have access to a phone, or if you can't open Mentimeter, use the chat, guys. That's totally fine. I can see grammar, Clill, were the same in Brastizo too. Well, Renata said that most of the topics in Brastizo last week were the same as in Brastizo 2000. Wow, that is interesting. Yeah, same old, same old. Bilingual programs, I agree. The word bilingual appearing again, maker. Nice. Thank you for your interactions, guys. Digital PBL appearing in English language teaching right now. Task-based. Okay. Personalized teaching. Interesting. Cleo. Well, it's good to see. Interaction is still the biggest word, is still in the center of everything. There's a little bit of delay between your responses and my reading, because I think there is a 20 or 30-second delay, but when I look at my phone, I can see things are moving faster. Well, thank you for your answers. We have a lot of opinions now. So interaction is still in the center, right? But we also see CLIL is a big word here. Oh, virtual and bilingual is also a big point here. Only by WhatsApp, my goodness. Well, the pandemic has changed aspects, changed teaching in so many ways, learning and teaching. Very nice, guys. Thank you for sharing your opinions. I'm gonna keep the poll open, because I want to have your opinions. I'm going to go back to the presentation just because of for the sake of time, but you can go back and keep entering your questions, because I think there is a little delay between my speech and your interaction. So I have listed some of these trends in English language teaching here. I don't know if it's the same thing you see, but you mentioned bilingualism. I will mention a pseudo-bilingualism, because anything pretty much can be called bilingualism now. There's a lot of content-based instruction, or CLIL, content language integration, a lot of early biliteracy, people learning both languages at the same time. You see, when I was young, at a language school, you wouldn't teach people to read and write in English when they were very little, at the age 3 or 4. First of all, some schools would only take students after they were 7, because they would be afraid of interfering with the first language, with L1, which nowadays we know it doesn't really happen, right? Inquiry-based learning based on discovery, curiosity. There is a lot of social and emotional learning going on. There is augmented and virtual reality as well, including in language teaching, lots of and more use of these technologies. Maker culture has invaded schools, programming, coding as well, right? Programming, coding. And 2 aspects that I would like to focus on, because as teachers, I don't know if we can do much about the first topics, but about future skills and mediation skills, I think we can do something. And perhaps there is room to talk about the last 2 aspects here. Okay, so definitely one of the topics that are hot nowadays, and I grouped these topics in certain categories. So one of them I would like to talk to you is student-centeredness, is having the students in the center of the learning process. Of course, we've been talking about that for a long time as well, but here you find 10 characteristics of these experiences that are centered on learners. We have a little bit of these aspects. I'm not going to read them because I believe you can read them yourself, right? But I want to call, I don't know, perhaps the ones that need clarification, critique plus revision, when students can reflect on their production and do it again. There will be a productive struggle, perhaps. There is no problem. They will make mistakes. They will struggle to produce, and teachers will help, and perhaps they will do better the second time, but the error is seen as a part of the process. There are goals and accountability, but I like agency. Agency is perhaps one of the new topics here, in which students are agent, not only passive recipients of information, but they act as well. They act as in active learning. So this is a regular school classroom, for example, which is very different to how classes used to look like in the past. Right? Different learning spaces in the same classroom with students working in group and acting. Space for creativity. And the 4 C's, of course, of the so-called 21st century learning: creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, right? Especially in the time in which fake news are so spread and there is a lot of disinformation campaigns, right? Even using truth to manipulate people's minds and twisting a little bit here, a little bit there, and what looks real may not be. So we need to question what we see at all times, and critical thinking is so important. So these are some important skills, not to mention the whole learner approach, especially during the pandemic. Taking care or looking at the learner as a whole, not forgetting that, okay, he's learning English, but he has a physical body to be developed, or he has social skills. We have to focus on their emotional skills as well. It's not only cognitive, but looking at the learner as a whole, looking at the entire picture here is really important. Whole learner approach equals well-being. Looking and taking care and catering for students' well-being, really important nowadays. Second category, so first category, student-centeredness. This is key to the current teaching of the English, but learning by doing as well, right? And sometimes learning English, not only by doing, but while they are doing. Learning while they are doing stuff. For example, that's why STEM and STEAM approaches have popularized so much, because it's English integrated with important areas such as science or technology, arts, math. So they are learning English while they are doing, they are producing things and projects like this. Yeah. So it's interesting that regular schools have moved. Almost all of these schools have a maker classroom. How about our English schools? No maker. So guys, regular schools start to become more interesting than language schools nowadays. And it was totally the opposite, right? From night to day, students are having fun at the regular school, and perhaps not that much fun at the language school or in the language class, right? And it's funny because we are the ones that we've always talked about fun. They have never talked about fun there in school, right? But somehow they're having fun here, right? There, I mean, in regular schools. Maker spaces, they're all over in regular schools. How about in our schools or in our classes? Do they have a space for making, or is that not important for our case? Coding, guys, if you want to learn a second language, and perhaps you will think, okay, I'm going to learn Chinese. No, guys, the second learning right now, the new second learning is coding. According to learners all over the world, in a research that Pearson has published, coding has become the language that people want to learn. Of course, coding uses English to the commands and everything, but very important to be able to acquire these skills, right? If you're having problems, people are telling me to give F5, right? Ruth is mentioning here, parents expect the teacher to cover all the book pages. My dear friend Ruth, yeah, that is true. You are absolutely right, right? Teachers should have agency to teach in whatever they think is best, right? We are the specialists here, right? This is so true. It happens all the time. So guys, the book is not a Bible, okay? The book, and I like something that my children's teacher said, that when the teacher uses, because parents there were terrible, they were questioning, why do we buy books and teachers don't use all the pages? And she said, okay, that shows that we are the authors of the course, right? That shows you the path we chose to follow. If we use all the book, it's not our course, it's their course. So this is so true. But then a teacher has to have the courage to say that, and sometimes we are not backed by the institutions so much. So I totally sympathize with you guys. I know that sometimes we cannot say that, but we should have autonomy to decide what will be taught in the end of the day, right? Augmented and virtual reality, we have mentioned that already. So that would be the second category. So we talked about student-centeredness. Then we talked about learning by doing. And now integrating ICT, the information and communication technologies, right? So much of what we do, and I would like to point out this model, the Samir model by Dr. Ruben Puentedura. Perhaps most of you have heard. So when we use technology in class, sometimes, are we only replacing what could be done by pen and paper? Like, are students using technology just to take notes? Yeah, so it's only substitution. There is no functional change. There is no enhancement. I mean, perhaps a little bit, but not very much. Are we augmenting? Is technology acting as a substitute, but with functional improvement? Then there is augmentation. But if technology modifies, or perhaps if technology modifies things, it should allow us to do things that were previously inconceivable and impossible to be done without technology. That's transformational, right? Not only using technologies to substitute what would be done in the same way with pen and paper, right? So redefinition and transformation is what will take us ahead. Thank you for your comments on that. So we have blended learning, right? Which is definitely 99% of the times, okay? I want to be careful here. There are very different circumstances, but 99% of the time, blended learning is not what's being done now. What's being done now is crisis learning, right? Not blended learning, but this possibility of integrating what's done inside and outside the classroom has so many gains, right? Perhaps not in the way we're doing right now. There are many things going on, but sometimes they can't be called blended learning. How about computer labs, guys? Does your school or the school you teach or offer language school a computer lab like this to students? Do you provide computer labs? Well, they are probably the only place where you can see computers like this nowadays, right? Because computer labs have simply disappeared in many cases, right? With cloud computing and the power of the processing power of cell phones and Chromebooks and other things increasing so much, the computer has gone into the classroom, and especially because of the pandemic, these bring your own device policies became more possible. So you don't need a computer lab anymore, or a place to take your students that they can have access to technology. They have probably more technology in their hands in some cases than they would have in a computer lab like this, right? So if they bring their own devices, be it a cell phone or a Chromebook, it's becoming more possible to assess. Have a computer lab, but it doesn't work, right? I think we have moved past the computer lab era, with computers in entering the classroom, either by bringing their own device policies, or by putting computers inside the classroom so students can use. Okay, so I think these are three main topics related to these current trends. And but don't forget, at this conference, in this event, we're talking about humanizing the use of technology, right? This is the idea, humanizing. How can we humanize that? So I want to invite you now to think about jobs and skills for the future. So I want you to go to Mentimeter again, and if you kept it open, all you have to do is to go to the next slide. Oh, this is our word cloud, which is great. Here, so many things. Even TikTok is there, but Clill, Maker, digital are the bigger words. They're the most common words. So go to the next slide, guys, and I want to hear from you. If you don't have access to a phone or something, what skills are the most important for life in the future? So I'm talking about the skills that our students need for their lives in the future. Which do you think are the most important? Can you use the chat or Mentimeter to report on that? I'm going to give you 20 seconds for that. Right, I can see here a lot of ideas in the chat. Empathy, communication, speaking. Whoa, creativity, fast thinking, critical thinking. Lots of things going on, guys. Good communicate. I agree with you. You're right. I can see collaboration there. Engagement. Thank you. That is awesome. Thank you for your ideas, guys. Professional self-development. This is nice. I like that. Knowing how to learn, how to interpret anything, communication, empathy. Fantastic, guys. I like your ideas a lot. Improve every day. This is fantastic. This while you do this, I don't want to spoil what you're saying. I don't want to give you the answers, spoon feed, as we would say in the classroom, right? But this is wonderful. Please keep entering your ideas, and we'll go back to that in the future. But Pearson performed an extensive research in conjunction with the University of Oxford, the Oxford Nesta Institute. And this was published in the report called The Future of Skills. I'm going to leave you the reference in the future, but you can go futureskills.pearson.com. So we'll talk about future skills now. Which skills are important for employment in 2030? Well, why 2030? Because perhaps the students who are in our classrooms as kids now, they would be the adults of the years 2030. Right, the decade of 2030. So that's why we set this goal. And there were some elements that will impact life there in a a more important way, right? Some trends for the future. But then there is something that you can try. You can explore the research, you can read the whole report, or explore the landscape. If you explore the landscape, you in the report, I mean, you can see the demand for professionals in 2030. So what are the jobs of the future, guys? Can you guess which jobs will be more important in the future? If you can use the chat, that will be great. Which professionals are in highest demand in 2030? We did that in the United States and in England. And you know what the result was? In the USA, wow, preschool teachers, primary teachers, and in fourth place, post-secondary teachers. Teachers or teaching positions are the professions of the future, guys. This is the profession that there is a 97.8% chance that jobs will increase in the future. This is fantastic, guys. Our job already has large numbers in the United States, but it's the profession with the highest possibility of growth in the future. In the UK, how were the things? How do you think? Oh, in the UK, food and preparation and hospitality trades. And in second place, teaching and educational professionals, right? So teaching is a profession of the future. Teachers will be in highest demand in the future. Demand for teachers will increase, and we need to be prepared with these skills. And I entered the landscape there, and I wanted to see which skills I need to learn for success in the future. So I typed my name, my age. You can do the math to see. You will see that I have. I'm a little older than I look like. But anyways, I'll be 48 years old in 2030. Please don't do the math. And some skills that I will learn, I will need to learn to progress in my career. Learning strategies, instructing, and active listening. I need to listen to my students, right? So I need to listen, not only talk. Learning strategies are very important, as you mentioned there. And can you see, being a teacher has a 77% chance of growth in jobs, for teachers by 2030. So this is wonderful, guys. Sometimes I get depressed by being a teacher, and I think about, okay, I'm going to do something else. I should be doing something that I can make real money, right? I'll be a computer programmer. So I tried computer programmer there. If you want to try the research, you can just scan the QR code here and you can do that. But then I realized that computer programmers, okay, these are the skills I need to learn if I want to be a computer programmer. And there is only a 44% chance that there will be a growth in the number of computer programmers in the future. It's only a 44% chance, guys. So being a teacher, I'm much better off. There are a higher chance that I'll find jobs easily in the future than being a computer programmer. So I'll keep being a teacher here. So have a look at this research. It's very nice. I explore the research and see which skills you can use to progress in the future, right? So now here we have a visitor. Here we have a visitor participating in our discussion right now. Right? I hope you can hear my son. Okay, but which skills are the most important in the future? The same report brings lots of skills. And number one, as you can see, is learning strategies, right? Psychology coming second, instructing coming third, and lots of skills that are valuable, for example, in the United States, whereas in England, they don't change much. But can you see judgment and decision-making being the most important skill for the future? So here is a list for you to have a look. Some of you have answered some of these ideas there in the Mentimeter. You can hear my baby, right? This is wonderful. One of the perks of of home office, right? Well, you would never hear that face to face. So these are the most important skills, guys. So if you look at them, think about how many of these skills that are the most important for our students are we teaching in our classrooms, right? I'm sorry about the corrector sometimes makes mistakes here in PowerPoint. So the question now is, how can we teach with future skills? I don't know if it's possible to teach future skills, but how can we teach with these future skills here? I want to give you some examples from a course book we're launching this year in Brazil. This is High Note, and it's made for teenagers who are in the upper secondary segment. And they have, this is a hard time, a hard period of life, right? Teenagers, so many changes for them. So the course book includes the teaching of some life skills. And in this case, the life skill is how to avoid time wasters. Wow, this is so hard for us to do, but not to mention for teenagers, right? How can they learn not to waste their times in lives, to use their time carefully? See how many hours they have free for studying, and there is a project for them to implement there in their lives. So that should bring an extra linguistic result, a result that students will put into their lives, right? So we're teaching skills that matter, that will be important for the future to these teenagers. Another example from the same course, from High Note. If you want to know more, you just go english.com/High Note, and you will find that. English.com/High Note, and you can see more examples of High Note. It's a course for teenagers. And this is a study forum, taking stress out of exams. Managing stress, guys. This is an important emotional skills. I don't know if I know how to do that in my own life. Perhaps I should, because before this presentation here, okay, this is not a test, this is not an exam, but I had butterflies in my stomach. I should learn how to manage my emotions better, right? So we're teaching kids how to deal with their emotions better. So this is looking at the whole learner. This is looking at a future skill, emotional intelligence, right? Therefore, this is really relevant for the future. And then in the end, they make a project to implement that in their own lives. How will they implement some things that will help them reduce stress? And just one more example, not to talk too much about this, but super important skills, guys. How to use the internet in a safe way. We think that our students know everything about technology. Well, they in a way, but not exactly. So they need to be taught how to use the internet in a safe way, not to give away their personal information, or how to create safe passwords. And this goes much beyond. It's not only a text we're reading, guys. Oh no, we've always done that. You read a text about a certain topic. No, here there is an approach for teaching these skills in which students will make a plan to incorporate that to their lives. They will reflect, they will hear advice, and they will make a project to incorporate these skills in their lives, right? As you can see, that is not enough here. Mom is still most important. So this is it. This is about High Note, what I wanted to bring. And the last part of this talk, I would like to use to talk about mediation, which is an important skill for the future, guys. If you are familiar with the Common European Framework for Language Reference, is that in the past we used to have 4 skills only, right? Speaking, listening, reading, writing. And nowadays we have a lot more than that, right? The companion volume published in 2018 brings something about mediation. Mediation was the most important addition there. But what is mediation? I don't know how much you know about the topic, but I would like to discuss that with you, right? So mediation was included in the 2018 companion volume to the Common European Framework. It's a facet of communication. Basically, is when we take into account the needs of others and we adjust our own expression. So in communication, mediation is how we adjust the message to what other people need to understand, right? So this is mediation, is adjusting, teaching, so that other people can understand. I'll have a look at the chat here. And okay, so just to see the chat a little bit and to text the mother so that the mother can come and succor the boy. Right? So I hope you had time to read the quote. Okay, so mediation, this is taken from the Common European Framework. It's a perspective skill. In the past, in 2001, we had 4 skills there. Reading, listening, writing, and speaking. And nowadays, the companion volume of the CEFR included listening and speaking together as reception, as one skill, writing and speaking in the other part, production. Then it now contains interaction as well, which is engaging in conversation or written exchanges. And mediation is there, guys. So now the 4 skills have changed. And we have the necessity to adjust the message for the recipient. This is so important, guys, in a world in which English is not used only by native speakers. It's not important only read, listen, write, or speak, but to mediate, to adjust the message to the recipient, to say something in a way, perhaps the person with us does not speak English at our same level, and we need to simplify the message or explain or paraphrase a text to them. I advise you to take a look at this. What do students need to mediate? They need to mediate text, concepts, and communication sometimes. And this is the language they use to collaborate in a group, to lead group work, to analyze and construct complex texts. So this is these are all the facets of mediation and mediation strategies as well. And the Common European Framework now brings descriptors for mediation. The good thing is that this skill that's so important in the future, these descriptors are important in connection with small group, collaborative tasks, which is what we like to do nowadays, right? So these mediation descriptors will help us to guide our students in this process. And how do you teach mediation? This is just one example taken from Roadmap, another course that we have nowadays. Roadmap brings, sorry, I can't share the lesson here with you right now. I think we don't have time. We have only 2 minutes to finish. But in the same way we do with life skills in High Note, Roadmap, the course we're launching for adults right now, it brings the steps for mediation, in which one student has to read a text, simplify it for the other to understand, answering questions. So these are skills for the future, guys. So in a nutshell, I'm going to leave you with my references that you can take a look here. The Future Skills Report, the Council of Europe, this publication that includes the companion volume, 2 articles about mediation. And if you want to know more about the courses, it's english.com/highnote and english.com/roadmap, courses that will teach future skills. So in a nutshell, guys, are we teaching for testing or for mastery? Why future skills matter. I hope they matter for you. And thank you so much for attending. You were a lovely audience. Thank you for all your answers, all your interactions. I think this is it for now. Thank you, guys.